Have you ever caught your reflection and felt a quiet sense of distance, as if time has slowly carried you away from the person you once knew? The world seems to move faster now, conversations feel shorter, and the body that once followed your will without question begins to ask for patience instead. Aging can feel like a silent struggle, not because growing older is wrong, but because we often resist what life is gently trying to teach us. In Buddhist wisdom, suffering is rarely caused by change itself, but by our refusal to flow with it. What if aging is not something being taken from you, but something being offered? Today, I want to share 5 simple yet profound Buddhist truths about growing older, truths that don't deny pain, but soften it, and don't promise youth, but offer peace. Stay with me, and if these words resonate, take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more reflections on living with calm, clarity, and quiet strength. 1. You will be forgotten, and that's okay. One of the hardest truths we eventually face is this: no matter how much effort you put into your life, the world will slowly move on without you. The work you poured your heart into, the roles you once held, the stories you told so often, over time, they will fade from the center of attention. At first, this realization can feel deeply unsettling. It touches a quiet fear most people never say out loud, the fear of becoming insignificant. We spend so much of our lives trying to matter, trying to be remembered, believing that meaning is measured by how long our name survives in the minds of others. When that belief begins to crack, it can feel like something essential is being taken away. If this thought brings discomfort, sadness, or even anger, know this: there is nothing wrong with you. Anyone who has loved deeply, contributed sincerely, or given their energy to others has felt this fear at some point. It is not a weakness. It is a human response to impermanence. We attach meaning to being seen, acknowledged, and remembered because recognition once helped us survive. But what once protected us can later become a source of suffering. Buddhism does not ask us to deny this pain or pretend it does not exist. Instead, it invites us to look at it honestly, without judgment, and without turning away. In Buddhist understanding, suffering often arises not because things end, but because we cling to the idea that they should not. The teachings on impermanence and non-self are not meant to erase our lives or diminish our efforts. They simply remind us that we are not fixed objects meant to leave permanent labels behind. We are moments in motion. We are experiences passing through time. The problem is not that we will be forgotten. The problem is the belief that being remembered is what gives our life value. When that belief loosens, something quiet and freeing begins to appear. Meaning no longer depends on applause. Worth no longer depends on memory. What matters is not whether your name lasts, but whether you were fully present while you were here. There is a simple Zen image that captures this truth. A river flows past a mountain temple, day and night, year after year. The water that passes today is not the same water that flowed yesterday, yet the river remains. No drop demands to be remembered. No current tries to hold itself still. And yet, the river nourishes the land, shapes the earth, and gives life simply by flowing. In the same way, your life does not need to be preserved in names or stories to have mattered. Your presence, your actions, your kindness have already moved through the world, leaving subtle ripples you may never fully see. Think about the people who shaped you most. A teacher who believed in you, a neighbor who showed unexpected kindness, someone who helped you during a difficult moment. You may not remember all their names. You may not recall their faces clearly anymore, but you remember how they made you feel. Their influence lives on in your choices, your values, and the way you treat others. This is how life truly continues, not through memory, but through impact. So let go, gently, of the need to be remembered. Your true legacy does not live in the minds of others. It lives in the way you showed up, the care you offered, and the moments you fully inhabited. That has always been enough. 2. Your body will fail you. Befriend it. At some point, often without warning, the body begins to change in ways that feel deeply personal. Movements that once felt effortless now require care. Energy fades more quickly. The body you trusted for decades no longer responds the way it used to. It can feel like a quiet betrayal, as if something that was always on your side has suddenly turned against you. And with that feeling often comes frustration, even anger, not at life, but at your own body. This truth is difficult to face because the body has always been how we move through the world, how we express ourselves, how we feel capable. When it weakens, it can feel as though we are losing a part of who we are. If you find yourself missing your old strength, your old speed, or your old resilience, there is no need for shame. This longing is not vanity. It is grief. It is the natural response to change. Many people carry this grief quietly, believing they should be more accepting, more grateful, more disciplined. But Buddhism does not ask us to suppress this pain. It asks us to acknowledge it with honesty. You are allowed to miss the body you once had. You are allowed to dislike the feeling of limitation. None of this makes you shallow or weak. It makes you human. From a Buddhist perspective, the body has never been the self. It is a condition, a vehicle, a temporary form through which life expresses itself. Suffering does not arise because the body changes, but because we keep comparing what is here now to what once was. The mind looks backward and demands that the present match the past. When it cannot, frustration grows. But the body you have today is not wrong. It is simply different. Peace does not come from forcing it to behave like it used to, but from learning how to meet it where it is, without resentment. There is an old Buddhist parable about a clay pot used to carry water from a river. When it was new, it held every drop. Over time, small cracks formed, and water began to leak through. The owner grew frustrated, believing the pot had become useless. But as he walked the familiar path each day, flowers began to grow along the trail, nourished by the water that escaped. The pot had changed, but its purpose had not disappeared. It had simply transformed. Our bodies are much the same. Even as strength fades, something else is quietly being cultivated: patience, gentleness, wisdom. In daily life, befriending the body does not mean pushing it harder or demanding improvement. It means listening, resting when rest is needed, without guilt, moving gently without forcing performance, eating not to punish or control, but to nourish, as you would care for an old and trusted companion. It means respecting limits instead of fighting them. Aging well is not about discipline alone. It is about relationship, the relationship you choose to have with your own body. A body that slows down can still hold compassion. A body that aches can still offer warmth. A body that trembles can still reach out in kindness. Strength was never the measure of your worth. Presence was. And presence does not disappear with age. If these words resonate, you're welcome to reflect quietly or share your thoughts in the comments. And if you wish to continue exploring this gentler way of living, consider subscribing for more reflections on peace, acceptance, and inner strength. Remember this above all: a weak body does not mean a weak spirit. 3. You can't keep everyone, and that's natural. As the years pass, one of the quiet sorrows many people encounter is the gradual thinning of their circle. Friends who once felt inseparable become distant. Family members who used to call often now reach out less. Some relationships fade without explanation, leaving behind an unfamiliar silence where warmth once lived. This can be especially painful in later years, when connection matters more than ever. Loneliness in aging is rarely loud. It arrives gently, in unanswered messages, in empty chairs, in the realization that fewer people seem to walk beside you now. When this happens, a question often forms beneath the surface, rarely spoken, but deeply felt. Was I no longer important? The mind searches for reasons, replaying conversations, wondering if something was said wrong or not said enough. It is easy to turn absence into self-blame. But this interpretation adds an extra layer of suffering to a situation that is already tender. Buddhism invites us to look at relationships through a wider lens, one that does not reduce their meaning to permanence. In Buddhist understanding, relationships arise through conditions. They come together when circumstances align, and they change when those conditions shift. This does not mean love was false or shallow. It simply means it was shaped by time, place, and shared experience. No one truly abandons us in the way the mind fears. Most people are simply moving forward in their own current of life. Their departure is not a rejection, but a transition. When we see relationships as roles within a larger unfolding, rather than possessions to be held, the heart softens. There is a simple image often used in Buddhist reflection. A river flows steadily toward the sea, carrying countless drops of water along its path. Some drops travel together for miles, moving side by side, reflecting the same sky. Others meet briefly and separate almost at once. None of them stop the river. None of them are wrong for parting. Their time together was real, even if it was not permanent. Human relationships move in the same way. Some remain close for decades. Others walk with us only for a season. The value of the connection is not measured by its duration, but by its sincerity while it existed. When we integrate this understanding into daily life, something important shifts. We begin to appreciate the people who are still present, rather than grieving every absence. A phone call returned, a shared meal, a quiet conversation. These moments become precious, not because they will last forever, but because they are here now. At the same time, the heart becomes more willing to welcome new connections, even later in life. New friendships may look different than old ones. They may be simpler, quieter, less intense, but they can still bring warmth and meaning if we allow them to. Aging does not mean connection is over. It means connection becomes more intentional, less crowded, but often more sincere. When we release the need to hold everyone close, we free both ourselves and others to move naturally. And in that freedom, relationships can be remembered with gratitude rather than regret. So let go gently, honor what was, care for what remains, and stay open to what may still arrive. Because love was never about ownership, it was always about presence. Love is not ownership. 4. You no longer look young, and that's a gift. There comes a moment, often quiet and unexpected, when you catch your reflection and realize that the person looking back no longer matches the image you carry inside. The skin has softened. The lines are deeper. The hair tells a story of passing years. In a world that praises youth and speed, this moment can stir a subtle sense of shame, not because aging is wrong, but because we have been taught again and again that visibility belongs to the young. When the mirror changes, it can feel as though the world is slowly looking past you, as if your presence has become less noticeable. If you have ever felt invisible, know that this feeling is not imagined. Many people experience it as they grow older, especially in cultures that equate worth with appearance. Being overlooked can wound quietly. It can make you question your relevance, your attractiveness, even your value. Buddhism does not dismiss this pain or ask you to rise above it prematurely. It simply invites you to see it clearly without turning it into self-rejection. Aging does not diminish you. It reveals you. From a Buddhist perspective, beauty has never been found in youth alone. Beauty is not something that peaks and then disappears. It is something that matures. True beauty lives in presence, in kindness, and in the depth that comes from having lived fully. Youth may draw attention, but depth holds meaning. As we age, the focus shifts from surface to substance. What once impressed from a distance now resonates up close. This shift can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if we have been taught to measure ourselves by how we look rather than how we live. But within this discomfort is a quiet gift. There is a Zen story often shared in gardens and temples. A student once admired a cherry blossom tree in full bloom, dazzled by its color and softness. The teacher then led him to an ancient pine, its bark rough, its branches twisted by time. At first, the student saw only age, but as he stood longer, he noticed something else, a steady presence, a grounded strength, a quiet dignity. The teacher smiled and said, "When you are young, Beauty shouts. When you are older, it whispers. With time, we learn to hear the whisper. When this understanding enters daily life, the way we see ourselves begins to change. Think of the elders you respect most. Their beauty is rarely in smooth skin or youthful features. It is in the way they listen without rushing, in the calm they bring into a room, in the kindness that feels unforced. Their presence feels safe. Their words carry weight. This is a beauty shaped by experience, not by appearance, and it is a beauty that cannot be taken away by age. Instead of mourning what the mirror no longer shows, we can begin to appreciate what it now reflects. A life lived, lessons learned, compassion earned through difficulty. Aging does not erase beauty, it refines it. The softness you see is not weakness, it is openness. The lines are not flaws, they are evidence of feeling, of endurance, of being human. So when you notice your reflection and feel tempted to turn away, pause. Look again, not with judgment, but with understanding. What you are seeing is not loss, it is depth. Beauty doesn't fade, it deepens. 5. You will lose more people, but love never dies. As the years go by, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. The longer you live, the more people you will lose. Parents, siblings, friends, partners, one by one, absence begins to weave itself into your life. This is not pessimism. It is simply the natural rhythm of time. Aging does not only bring wisdom, it also brings goodbyes. And no amount of preparation truly softens the ache. Loss arrives in waves, sometimes gently, sometimes without warning, leaving a quiet heaviness in the heart. Buddhism does not ask us to look away from this pain. Grief is not a mistake, nor is it something to overcome quickly. It is the mark of love. The depth of sorrow we feel reflects the depth of connection we once shared. To grieve is to honor what mattered. To feel the pain is to acknowledge that someone's presence changed you. There is no shame in that. There is only humanity. From a Buddhist perspective, the misunderstanding lies in the idea that grief should end, or that healing means forgetting. The teachings offer a different path. We are not asked to move on as if love could be discarded. We are invited to move forward, carrying love with us. Loss does not erase connection. It transforms it. What was once external becomes internal. What was once shared in moments becomes woven into who you are. There is a well-known story in Buddhist tradition about a woman named Kisa Gotami, whose young child passed away. Overwhelmed by grief, she went from home to home asking for medicine to bring him back. Eventually, she reached the Buddha, who gently told her to find a mustard seed from a household untouched by death. With renewed hope, she knocked on every door, but each family had known loss. A parent, a child, a loved one. By the time she returned, she understood something profound. Death was not her burden alone. Suffering was shared by all. In that realization, her grief softened, not because her love was gone, but because she was no longer alone in it. This story is not meant to minimize loss. It reminds us that grief is part of being alive, and because it is universal, it connects us rather than isolates us. When we allow ourselves to grieve without resistance, something subtle happens. The pain remains, but it no longer defines us. It becomes a quiet companion, reminding us of love rather than taking it away. In everyday life, we see this truth in small, unexpected moments. A familiar scent that suddenly brings someone back. A song that carries a voice long gone. A phrase you still repeat because it once belonged to them. These moments can feel bittersweet, but they are also evidence that love does not end with the body. It continues through memory, habit, and influence. The people you have lost still shape the way you see the world, the way you care, the way you show up for others. Aging means you will witness more endings, but it also means you have been given the chance to love deeply, to form bonds that mattered enough to leave an imprint. That is not a tragedy. It is a privilege. When grief feels heavy, remind yourself that it exists only because love existed first. And love, once given, does not disappear. So when loss visits your heart, meet it with gentleness. Let it remind you of what you were lucky enough to experience. Carry the love forward into your words, your actions, and your kindness toward others. As long as you keep loving, no one is truly gone. Remember, aging is not a punishment, and it is not a mistake. It is a quiet privilege that many never receive. Every year you have lived, every change you see, every loss you have endured carries within it a deeper invitation to soften, to understand, and to live with greater honesty. When we stop resisting time, we discover that nothing essential is being taken from us. What is falling away are illusions, not meaning. What remains is presence, wisdom, and the capacity to love more gently. If this reflection brought you comfort or clarity, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Your story may be exactly what someone else needs to hear. And if you'd like to continue walking this path of calm, insight, and mindful living, consider subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications. Together, we can explore life not with fear, but with grace, depth, and quiet strength.